Like, so it's, and I feel like it's hard for me as like something I'm unpacking now, like in therapy, is like I'm very orderly. Like I'm too much. Like I need there to be order in my life for some reason.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to let go of that, but at least to some degree. But like, yeah, being able to kind of, what was my point even? I guess my point is just like to not necessarily, like there's something very limiting about being that kind of a person. I feel like you have that, you're not limited necessarily by those issues. Like you're cool. This is what I'm inspired by. This is what I'm working on today. Like
I'm more orderly than you think.
I think it really helps.
Well, I'm more orderly than you think. Like I relate to what you're saying. It's just like, I just think a lot of it goes back to what we were saying in the beginning. Like it's so much of why I'm so chaotic is because of my circumstances. My circumstances are chaotic. Now, maybe I had a bit of like an open, like, I don't even know. I was thinking about this earlier today. I think I was like, I remember when I was in university studying mathematics. I remember when I had an office job. And I remember the kind of person I used to be. Like I was still like me essentially, I suppose, but I was a very reserved person. Like living outside of institutions, like formal institutions for so long has made me a more eccentric person, more than I would like, honestly. Like I'm louder than I like to be. I speak, ramble more than I would like. You know what I mean? And I remember a version of myself who worked in an office who was boring as hell, but also had some, you know, you could take them to a party and not have to explain, oh, this is my weird friend, like, you know, that kind of thing. And the thing that you were saying about being too orderly, the hack for that, remember, is always that it's fractal all the way down. There is chaos within your orderliness. There is orderliness within that chaos. There's a way to go through your orderliness into more chaos. Rather, like that is an option as well. You can do both. You can explicitly do some chaotic things separate from your orderliness, or you can go so deep into your orderliness that itself becomes something chaotic. Of course, do it in a way that's beneficial for you and be aware if it's harmful. But
I'm going to have to think about how that plays out in real life.
Take it as a prompt. Take it as a prompt.
Yeah, totally. Shit, man. Wow, let's unpack here.
we have fun chopping it up, I think.
Wow. I know, like you kind of said, like, you know, you maybe missed that reserved part of yourself that, you know, now you've accentuated, but like, but it's you. Like the new you is you.
But the future me is also me, and the future me may be more reserved. I might be more reserved tomorrow. I mean, I have to like, I don't like the as much as we have to use the binary to describe our reality. Like the whole point is that that's a fiction. Like things are chaotic and they're orderly at once. You know, it's a superposition, if you will. And at which moment I will collapse into either chaos or order, we don't know. In that moment, what is appropriate, and that's why we have to be mindful. That's why we need to be present, so that we know whether we step into order or chaos in that moment. What's appropriate for this moment? It gets away from us when we lose track of the present moment. And me saying any of that should not be misinterpreted as me trying to represent myself as someone who has mastered being in the moment. I struggle with it all the time. And it's much harder in our era of social media and distractions and smartphones to be in that present moment. And it's I know that sounds trite. I know that that's been said a lot and everybody says it, but it's true. And I don't want to make it sound like I am actively able to successfully incorporate this into my day all the time. Like, no. Like, I'm literally telling you about how I'm not able to get through this Rachmaninoff because I can't be present for the whole thing. Because in that situation, it moves me too much. But in my day-to-day life, you know, I'm not present all the time because I'm lazy or because of inertia or because I'm actually, shit is too complicated. Something is happening, you know?
Right.
But whenever we can return to being present, we can recalibrate and find that we can step into a bit more chaos or step into a bit more order, depending on what the situation is. You certainly wouldn't want to be chaotic in maybe a situation that required you to be to be organized for the sake of your family or your work or whatever, right? So don't lose your orderliness. But the chaos is there in you as well. Of course, you're a human being, my friend.
Yeah.
I
have to figure out what that is.
Well, we are all on that journey.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to also just say that, you know, you don't seem to have this like sense of FOMO that many of us do, including me, of like, oh, if I don't take this project, like I'm missing out on something, or like feeling this like deep responsibility towards, the artist I'm working with of like, or someone that was a client and now wants to work again. It's like, I gotta, please them. I gotta do this. Like, you're just like, it's not something I'm doing right now. Or this is something I'm doing right now. Like you have a good sense of yourself, of what you actually do want to focus your production skills on. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's not like, I feel like for many of us, it's just like, this came in. Let me just try to do this,
It depends. It's interesting that you would perceive me that way, because I do find myself from time to time getting involved in projects. It's like, I shouldn't have taken this, or like I ask those questions all the time. Sometimes if you go deep into my history, there's plenty of projects where like it's hard to evaluate whether I should have taken them or not because I needed the experience, but they're kind of whack. Like, and that still happens, and even with amazing projects that I clearly should have done and are awesome, in the midst of those projects, I've questioned myself. I mean, I told you at the beginning that Amali is an artist that really brought me up to her level. That's kind of what I mean. Like, it took us 2 years to make that record. There were times when I just felt like, man, I don't know, like, why am I doing this? Like, I don't understand. And that's not, as a producer, I'm not supposed to feel that. I'm supposed to be in charge, and not in charge but I am supposed to take the reins. And there were actually many moments throughout that process where I was like losing it, actually. And like I said, she brought me up to her level. She was like, no, like, this is what the project's got to be. It's really, this is the level we're at. And I didn't even know. I thought we were already at that level, or I thought I was talking about a different level, but I was wrong. I needed to meet her there. And that's again about being present. But what is that? Pleasing an art or not? I don't know. I'm just trying to serve the project. And I do have FOMO. That's it's hard not to have FOMO. Like, all your friends are musicians and they're all doing amazing work, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard not to have FOMO. So I experienced that. The goal is to not experience it, but don't beat yourself up if you do experience it. Get better at saying no to projects that you shouldn't be doing. Like, if you see a project, if you can afford to. If you can't afford to, then show up. Like, if you're an accountant,
whatever it is, show up 100%.
Yeah. If you've taken the project, then keep doing it until you decide that you don't want to do it. But make that calculation for yourself. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know exactly what you asked me now that I think about it, but I'm not sure if that addresses it.
Yeah, I was just like, like, you seem like you didn't have FOMO, but I guess you do have FOMO.
No, it's tough. I mean, like, the difference, I think, it's not like, based on what you were mentioning, like pleasing an artist or needing to do something right now because it's coming into the studio, like, that is the emotional aspect of it. The distressing part of it is the direct identification with being a producer, where it's like, I am not a producer as my career. I'm a producer as a human being. Like, it's just clear that I am a producer. That's not what I do for a living. That's what I do because I'm living. And so if I'm not producing something right now, that's fine. It's not my whole identity, and that's important. And if I don't produce anything ever again, I'm still a producer. I've done enough to show that that's not a joke of a thing to say. But
that's interesting. You say that. Yeah.
Well, it's like, in the beginning, and when you start doing this, and you've not put out a single thing, but you're serious, and you're showing up every day, to do it, but you haven't released anything yet. How sheepish do you feel when you go to a party and someone asks you what you do, and you say sheepishly that I'm a producer or I'm a musician, and they're like, oh, well, have you worked on anything I've heard?
With? What do you do?
Yeah. It's like it is a joke for so long for so many of us, and we have to go through that. So many of us go through that period of time, and so many people don't make it out of that time. So many people never put out anything or never commit to doing the thing because they can't handle the day-to-day degradation of living, but the day-to-day degradation of being an artist and then having to answer for that. Having to answer for society's disdain of artists, not until you do something amazing, right? Then the disdain goes away for a short moment. But
right,
so it's like,
and then people are in awe of you,
maybe, and that's also ephemeral, and that's why it's important to not identify with it. It's like I'm a musician. I'm a producer. I'm an artist. I'm a friend. I'm turning into a Hegelian. I think I'm many other things. I'm many things, but this is I think fits into a problem with how we talk about identity anyway. We are prompted to identify with things that make no sense as identities. Like
right, these are things I do, right? I do this.
Yeah.
I am the son
like,
of such and such. I am the the sibling of such. Like what is that?
Exactly. Yeah. It's like
it's funny.
Our identities, our sense of self is much more about what we're doing right now. This is our real sense of self, and this communion that we're having just now. That's so it's so separate from these weird identity markers, whether they be the ones that they talk about in the culture wars or the ones that the capitalist system asks you to identify with your work, your career, right? That's another delusion. I'm not a hardcore anti-capitalist. I'm just saying that that's what happens in that paradigm. And it's like we don't full Buddhist thing. It's like there's no self, right? It's not good to identify too much with those things.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And it's hard. It's like something, I experienced in the pandemic during like the lockdowns when I couldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I was like too, engrossed in just taking my son to the park, making sure we got groceries on time, like just basic like pandemic.
Music producers don't take their son to the park.
Yeah, exactly. pandemic life. Just deep in it. It's like why am I so stressed out? I should just be being, right? I should just be here, be present, in this moment. But like I'm stressed about not working, and but if I can't work, it's like. Is work I identify so much with my work that it's just like, it's not healthy. Like, that's not like, who am I if I'm not happy when I'm not doing the work? Like that doesn't make sense. That doesn't add up. Like
it doesn't add up at all.
Beyond that.
It doesn't add up at all.
Beyond that.
And what's worth, I think it's worth reiterating that just because I'm saying this doesn't mean that I'm successfully putting it into practice either. Like I'm struggling with it. Like you and I have such different lives. You have a son, family, a wife. You're over there in Jerusalem. You're staying put. I'm single, no family, running around the globe. But I am dealing with the same thing. I'm sitting there some days and I'm like, what am I doing? I don't feel useful today. And it's about that. It's about not feeling useful. And somehow in our current modern time, we also connect useful with what do you do? What is your job title? And if you're not executing your job title right now, then, buying groceries, taking your son to the park, that doesn't sound like what music producers do. Like, no, you are a human being, you're Ben. You got to be Ben. Sometimes Ben produces music. Be more like Ben.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what that Ben is actually.
Well,
that's my journey right now.
Always till the last day. That is always unfolding. We're always, life, there's two types of death. There's the physical death at the end, but you die much earlier when you stop unfolding the self. When I was a child, in the small Hindu community in St. John's, Newfoundland, there was a community class that we used to take in different people's homes. But there was one elder auntie that would speak about philosophy, Hindu philosophy, and the name of that class was self-unfoldment. and we would we were in it from like
amazing.
We were in it from like when I was in like maybe the 5th grade till like maybe junior high school at some point, and we people like, what are you doing on Sunday? It's like, oh, Sunday morning I have self-unfoldment. But but it is that process of constantly discover, like you stop being Ben the moment that you stop discovering Ben, right? You have to continue always discovering Ben, and then as long as you keep doing that, you'll continue to be Ben.
Yeah. That's crazy. A paradox, but
it is. That's why I recommend Hegel, and that's why I also recommend Lao Tzu and these traditions, because we don't have too many philosophical traditions that allow us to deal with paradox very effectively.
Yeah, totally. Wow. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go check some of that stuff out. I'll pop links in the show notes so people could go have a look as well.
We'll give her.
Wow, dude, Arnob, this is so fun. This is, as always, inspirational talking with you. Let's jump into the sauce segment and kind of listen to some stuff you've been working on so people can kind of get a vibe for it. Sound cool?
Cool. Sounds good.
So you sent me a couple tracks. So